Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. It's an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, my international friends, join us as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news and all sorts of good stuff. And, of course, it can't be a great day unless Robert Meyer Burnett is here. Robert, how you doing, sir?
Dude, Sideshow sent me a notice. My Thanos figure will be here in 7 days.
Oh, my.
Thanos hot toy. What's up, son?
So you are, of course, going to bring that hot toy into the studio.
Heck yeah, he's going to sit in my lap right here.
That's going to be pretty...
With his gauntlet.
And, of course, also joining us is Ashley Whalen. Ashley, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm surprised you led with that, Rob. I thought you were going to tell everyone you went to Disney World. Disneyland.
Oh, yeah, you went to Disneyland last night for your girlfriend took for your birthday yesterday.
Well, what can I say? But it's all about Thanos. Come on.
True.
It's all about that. And, by the way, speaking of birthdays, big birthday today is the Oscars. Birthday today, actually. I believe it is turning 90 today. I believe the first Oscars were held this day in 1929, I think.
Wow.
Or 39 or something. Anyway, I believe today is the birthday. Well,
no, it'd be 29. And it was Wings that won Best Picture.
I believe it was. And, of course, happy birthday to our departed friend, John Schnepp. It is his birthday today, and I'm sure a lot of you guys are going to be sending well wishes to his family and friends, of course, over the course of the day. Now, guys, we've got a lot of stuff to talk about here today, and we're going to go off the top with this. Here's something I bet you didn't think you were going to hear about today. So, one of the more prolific horror franchises of the modern era, of course, was Saw. That kind of started real strong and took a slow decline into, I don't know, obscurity over the course of its life. But it is an iconic franchise. And apparently, Lionsgate is going to reboot it. And who are they going to reboot it with? Jordan Peele? Carpenter, maybe? Some kind of master of horror? Nope. They're rebooting Saw with Chris Rock, ladies and gentlemen. Chris Rock is going to be rebooting Saw with Lionsgate. Now, Rock, of course, is more than just a comedian. He's worn a lot of hats in the entertainment industry. And so anyway, this just came up this morning, and this is what the report said. This is how they describe it. The picture will be produced by Berg and Cools and directed by Darren Lynn Bousman, who helmed Saw 2, 3, and 4. The screenplay is based on a story conceived by Chris Rock and written by Pete Goldfinger and Josh Stolberg. The movie will be executive produced by Rock, Daniel Hefner, and the original creators of Saw, James Wan and Lee Wanell. Chris wants to put his own spin on the Saw franchise in the way Eddie Murphy put a completely fresh perspective on buddy cop films with 48 Hours. So, apparently, the way the story goes here, Rob, is that Chris Rock went to Lionsgate, they sat down and they met, and he gave them this pitch, and apparently they loved it immediately. They thought it was great. Now, I'll say this. The thing about Saw, and the thing that I think the Saw creators always regretted, was the fact that they killed off Jigsaw so quickly. Because every movie after that was some desperate attempt, how can we include Jigsaw in this movie? And it got really rather sad the way it all kind of played out. But this gives them the opportunity to restart a franchise like this and kind of maybe take a different approach with their lead antagonist and not have him die off or on the brink of dying off at the end of the first film. You know what I mean? So there could be something interesting about this. And I got to admit, the fact that it's coming from a guy like Chris Rock that I never would have expected in a million years, I have to admit, I find it at least a little bit intriguing. Rob, you just heard about this. You saw the comments. What do you think about Chris Rock rebooting Saw?
Well, it's, here, now that I've had a minute or two to contemplate this news, it's kind of like what happened with Carpenter's Halloween last year. I mean, you had unlikely people involved in rebooting the Halloween franchise.
Very unlikely people.
And it did very, very well. And I think, people have grown up with the Saw franchise now. It's almost 20 years old. The original Saw came out in like 2001, 2002 or something. And maybe Chris Rock is going to do what Ryan Coogler did with Creed. Ryan Coogler loved the Rocky franchise, came up with this idea, rebooted it, and beautifully, by the way, got an Oscar nomination for Stallone. So maybe Chris Rock, this could be his Oscar franchise. Who knows?
Maybe. And like
but
I said,
I've loved Chris Rock since New Jack City in 1987.
He is a ridiculously talented comedian. I love him as a comedian, but again, if you look over his resume, he's actually had his hand in a lot of different projects and things like that. I think this is very intriguing, and Saw is a franchise that, let's face it, was kind of run into the ground. So why not reboot it? Why not give it a fresh start and a new lease on life? Maybe it'll suck, and if it does, whatever.
I'm a huge fan of the first, especially the first,
the first
three
one's
movies.
great.
I mean, the first two sequels it's kind of a trilogy. It's really good. I think so for what it is. And I was actually on the set of the first Saw. I shot some behind the scenes, and they shot that at Lacey Street Studios, which is this old, horrible place. And everybody in LA has shot there, and it was a perfect place to shoot the first Saw. But man, yeah, I'm. Good for. Is he going to be in it?
They haven't said. They haven't said. I don't know if he's going to be in it. I don't know if he just wants to stay back and be the producer and the writer with it. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
I'm in.
But I'm intrigued. Guys, what do you think? Does this news intrigue you? Does it make you laugh? Do you think, wait a minute, this could be interesting? Let me know what you guys think. Jump down in the comments section below and let me know your thoughts. Okay, guys, now we got our main topics to get to here today. But before we get to our main topics, I want to take a second and thank one of the sponsors and part of this episode of the John Campea Show, our friends over at Fanjecture.com. Now, what is Fanjecture? Well, you can show off your box office prediction skills with Fanjecture Fantasy Sports for film fans. Play games like Fantasy Film Book. The top films from the box office are matched up, and players choose a spread and a total. Track your progress as the weekend box office results come in. Compete for prizes for absolutely free. Now, normally, becoming a Patreon crew member of Fanjecture gives you access to exclusive contests and content, including playing against me, John Campea. However, now, through Memorial Day weekend, all players can enjoy a free preview of all the contests, including your versus competition against me, that Patreon members normally enjoy. Contests are open now, so visit Fanjecture.com and play today. And we here at the John Campea Show want to thank Fanjecture for being one of our sponsors. All right, with that down, let's move on to our main topics today. How do we select our main topics here on the John Campea Show? Well, it's really rather simple. You see, you guys select them by sending your topics and questions to me by going to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you're there, just fill out the form, hit submit, and then maybe, just maybe, you might see your topic or question featured here on the John Campea Show. With that down, Ashley, what is our first main topic today?
Okay, guys. First one up is from NJA. Hi, John. Love the show. A lot of people, whether they like the new season of Game of Thrones or not, felt it rushed to the finish. I understand that with the big battles, the budget might not have allowed for more episodes per season, but then they could have made one more season instead. Benioff and Weiss are attached to a Star Wars trilogy. Do you think this could have had something to do with why the series needed to end?
This is a common thing that's going around right now, and a common theory that it's the Benioff and Weiss's connection to the upcoming Star Wars franchise that they're going to be doing is somehow responsible, and could it be responsible for the rush nature of the final thing. Now, a whole bunch of people love what they're doing in Game of Thrones this year. A bunch of people don't love what they're doing with Game of Thrones this year. But what I think is a common thread is that amongst the people who aren't happy with it and the people who are, I think we all kind of feel a little bit of a sense of a rushed nature to things right now. I'm one of those who I'm loving this season, but even I say, yeah, I like what they've done, but you've got to it pretty quick, like in the episodes we have. And I've been complaining about that ever since they had made the announcement that the final two seasons, Rob, were only going to be 7 episodes and 6 episodes. I'm like, this is one of the most iconic, if not the most iconic television show in history. Some of the biggest numbers the world have ever seen. Why do you need to only do 7 and 6? I never understood it. And so there's this whole theory going around that maybe it's because of the Star Wars thing, that once they got the Star Wars thing, they just wanted, let's get Game of Thrones behind us and get on to doing what we really want to do, which is Star Wars. I can understand why that question would come up. I can. However, I want us to play a little game of dates. All right. Here's the thing. Game of Thrones was announced that they were going to only have 2 more seasons. This is following the end of season 6. They were only going to have 2 more seasons, and those seasons would be 7 and 6 episodes on July 30th of 2016. It wasn't until February 6th of 2018, nearly 18 months later, that it was announced that Benioff and Weiss would be going on to do Star Wars films. Now look, I have always told you guys that by the time we hear official announcements about stuff, things have actually been in the works for a while. Ben Affleck, for an example, is an extreme, but Ben Affleck was cast as Batman 6 months before they ever made the announcement that he was going to be playing Batman. So I'm always telling you that. However, this is like almost 18 months. I do not believe at all that any sort of a deal was made or even discussions had begun with Benioff and Weiss about doing Star Wars prior to them making the announcement about the 7 episodes and the 6 episodes. I think that was already done and locked. This is just too large of a time difference at this point. Not to mention that, you know, both the HBO executives and Benioff and Weiss have talked for a long time about how they never intended Game of Thrones to be an ongoing series. They said they've got their story in mind, they're going to do that, and they're not going to go anywhere beyond that. So it's not like this kind of came out of nowhere. They never intended this to be an ongoing series until people stopped watching it. So, Rob, I can understand personally why people would raise an eyebrow and wonder about this. I think it's clear why you would at least wonder that. But also to me, it's clear that this just simply wasn't the case, and I'm left to still be completely befuddled as to why you make the last 2 seasons 6 and 7 episodes concurrently when you ain't hurting for the money to do it anyway. Do you see any possible legitimacy to maybe they were rushing through this just so they can get it behind them, move on to Star Wars? How do you see it?
No, I think it has nothing to do with Star Wars at all. It was a decision that was made prior to that. I mean, they whether it had to do with budget or scheduling, the people they were dealing with have careers. Sophie Turner was making X-Men movies. I mean, you never know whatever was going on. There's a lot of other things that happen in the making of a show. This show was shot in multiple countries, you know, over the course of a year. I mean, the production, the actual production itself, incredibly difficult to achieve.
Yes, nightmarish.
And I think that it really had to do with those issues. I mean, I honestly think that, and they've said that they didn't think they had enough story to drag it out. I mean, maybe if it had gone 10 seasons, we would have been like, get on with it already.
Yeah.
And you know, Monday morning quarterbacking is never something I'd like to do, but I don't.
But we all do it.
We're doing it now. What do genre fans, what do fans of these kinds of movies like to do? Tell the creators how they could have done better and how they've let us down. And certainly they've let me down. So I would say that it has nothing to do with Star Wars. And by the way, I'm excited for their Star Wars movie. I think they've got the time to craft them, come up with the story, and it's going to be great.
The interesting thing to me here, too, when you're talking about what they've done with Game of Thrones and all this kind of stuff, what I think a lot of people forget, including the people, especially the people who seem to be upset by what's going on this season. You're not happy with it. I'm thrilled. But what I find that some people on both sides tend to forget is that for 8 years, they have given us the most talked about, beloved, iconic shows in history. But then, unlike you, Rob, who are like, oh, I just don't like a couple of episodes, there are people who are like now just wanting to throw away the entire series at this point. Saying, Game of Thrones, what? These guys didn't know what they were doing. They created 8 years of the most iconic, incredible stuff. And by the way, I'm going to throw this in there too, going to your point about how you didn't want to get to 10 seasons and feel like, come on, get on with things. There have been a couple of seasons that were good, but honestly, I felt where nothing happened. Like there have been a couple of seasons where I felt this is epic kind of stuff, but it really feels like it's dragging around season
Arya
3.
Stark's training. I thought that was going on
forever. I agree. I mean, there were a couple of things like that. So I don't know. It's all, you were right. You used the word hindsight, Rob. And I think you're absolutely right about that. Like they probably looked at this. I'm assuming there was a part of this where they looked at and said, hey, you know, we don't want to drag to the finish line. Let's give things a good pace and let's blah, blah, blah. To me, though, I am still sitting here absolutely befuddled about the whole idea about knocking 7 episodes out of your final 2 seasons. I don't get it. I never will until they explain it. But hey, I want to say this, guys. I never saw this. Apparently it came out like 5 or 6 months ago. Fender Guitars on their YouTube channel, they have this amazing video that one of our viewers sent to me yesterday, where it's like 6 of the most iconic guitarists in the world. From different genres, like Anthrax guy, who's the country music musician who's in all those Nationwide Are on Your Side commercials with Peyton, with Peyton Manning. You know the guy I'm talking about. He does it, but he's in there.
My genre.
And Weiss, Weiss sitting in with them, and they do this metal version, all of them playing these guitars, these metal versions, with each one of them taking a moment to rip out a solo. And Weiss, I got to show it to you after the thing, because Weiss sits there, and he's the last guy to go. They go through all these iconic guitarists doing all these amazing things, and then it gets to him to do a solo. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, he's really good. And so if you guys haven't seen
what is he playing? Does he rip out the Game of Thrones theme?
Yeah, they're all playing this big composed, all the guitarists are sitting at the same time and doing this big Game of Thrones theme.
Oh,
and it's gorgeous. And then they get to a part where each one of them does a solo. So they do kind of the main theme, as all the guitarists are playing the background parts and everything. Then after they go through that for about a minute, the first guitarist rips off this major solo as everybody else keeps the main theme going. Then the next guitarist does it, then the next guitarist, and then it gets to Weiss.
Oh,
and
is it Kenny Chesney? Is that his name? No, I don't know. Oh.
Might be. I can't remember which guy it is. I'm not a country music guy.
He wears like a black hat, maybe, right? I don't know.
But if you guys,
Brooks, right?
It was not Brooks. I can tell you that. But if you guys get a chance, look it up because it's actually really, really fun. Okay, with that down and out of the way, let's go on to the next main topic today. Ashley, what's next?
Next up is from Kyle Bruner. A producer from Spider-Man Far From Home said there is a possibility Mysterio will show up in future content. Do you think this could lead to an MCU version of the Sinister Six?
You know, here's what it is he's talking about. And this always becomes a question, Rob, because I remember back when Aquaman was coming out. And the producer of Aquaman mentioned, yeah, we got future plans for Black Manta. You're gonna see him in the DCU again. And then some people kind of felt like, is that kind of a spoiler maybe for Aquaman? But anyways, that debate. So what this is all revolving around is now the character Mysterio, where the producer of Spider-Man Far From Home had this to say. He said, we wanted to find our in, and similar to what we did with Mordo in Doctor Strange. We wanted to give them time to have relationships, so when and if we get to do something different with Mysterio, it really feels like a betrayal. And we're hopefully setting the stage for something really spectacular, and that feels really Spider-Man. Which is, again, if we get to do something else with this character, then they've already got this really personal relationship. Now that comes from the producer, Eric Carroll. Rob, he uses a little bit of elusive language here. It's like, if we get to do something with him again. To me, I look at this as like, oh, so clearly Mysterio moves on past Spider-Man Far From Home, but then again, this is the MC fake death universe, so who knows, maybe they dice him into 1,000 pieces and he just comes back. Mysterio from Earth 175, I guess. They can just bring him back later, I suppose. That's one of the consequences of them doing all these fake deaths all the time. But I look at this, and honestly, myself personally, I don't consider this anything like a spoiler, myself, because knowing, unless the movie is, does Eddie live? If that's the name of the movie, and it's the big poster about Eddie, and then they tell you that, oh, by the way, Eddie lives. Well, that's a poster. I just assume characters don't die. I just assume characters don't die moving forward. So I don't personally consider it a spoiler. I didn't when they said the stuff about Black Manta either. But you hear these comments. What stands out to you? And ultimately, do you think information like that is a spoiler at this point?
No, I don't think it's a spoiler. I mean, look, if you have villains, they didn't kill off the Vulture. He's in jail.
Right.
You know, who knows what's going to happen with Jake Gyllenhaal? I don't think he's going back to some other Earth, though. In my own mind, You don't
even think he's from another Earth?
I don't think he's from another Earth because he's Mysterio, and I think we're going to see the Chameleon too. I don't think Nick Fury's really in the movie. I mean, Sam Jackson's clearly playing someone who says he's Nick Fury, or maybe it's Maria Hill.
Oh, but there's a problem there with that theory, though.
Oh, there is?
Here's your problem. So, did you see the news that the one actor in it, and we see him in one of the trailers, he's playing Dimitri. Now, of course, the Chameleon's real first name is Dimitri, who is the half-brother of Kraven the Hunter. They got this actor, I think Naman, I can't remember the actor's name, who is playing this character, Dimitri, who looks like a dead ringer for Kraven the Hunter. But there's a scene in the trailer when they're in the underground bunker sort of thing, where Sam Jackson and Dimitri are in the shot at the same time. They're in the same scene. So if Dimitri is Chameleon, and we don't know that he is, he can't be himself and Nick Fury at the same time.
Unless Mysterio is somehow projecting the image of Nick Fury.
I suppose that's possible too. Lots of different theories.
No, I don't know. But I think that there's, they leave all. There are always possibilities, as Spock said. Who knows what they're going to do? But I think that Mysterio is not going to be killed off. They're
All
not
right.
gonna kill him.
And you don't consider that information any sort of a spoiler?
No, because saying ain't doing.
That's good. I like that.
I stole that from Rumblefish.
Saying
Francis
ain't doing.
Coppola's 1983 greatest teen film of 1983, aside from Risky Business. Saying ain't doing. That's what Matt Dillon says about when Biff Wilcox says he wants to kill him.
I love that.
Larry
I
Fishburne.
love that. And again, it's the MCU. I mean, having Mysterio later says nothing on if he dies in this movie or not. Honestly, says nothing. They could kill him 5 times in this movie, and that doesn't mean he's not going to be back. So, anyway, but the big question here is, guys, how do you look at this information? You hear these words from the producer. Do you consider something like that a spoiler for the movie? Are you like me and say, nah, it's not a spoiler at all? I want to hear what you think and why. Jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys, with that down, let's move on to main topic number 3. Ashley, what is our next main topic today?
Also, the country singer was Brad Paisley.
Brad Paisley, thank you.
Just wanted to
That's
throw
who
that
it
out.
was.
Yes.
Thank you for that.
It's who I was picturing, but I couldn't think of his name. Matt and Feely, I'm so excited to see John Wick 3 tomorrow night. I might jump out of my skin. A previous viewer said they were looking forward to this more than Endgame, and I'm right there with them. Anyway, did you hear the reports that director Chad Stahelski just said there is going to be a 4th film? Is that true? If it is, would you consider that jumping the gun a little, since we don't know how good or bad part 3 will do? Thank you, and bring the filthy.
Yeah, so tonight, as Rob, you so eloquently put, we all get to dip our wick. John Wick 3 opens tonight.
7 p.m., baby. What's up?
I'm going to 7:30. I'm going to see a 7:30 show. Me and Ryan, Ray, we're all going to go check it out tonight. Very excited for it. I actually can't believe how pumped I am. I actually, like, a week or two ago, I was like, yeah, I can't wait to see John Wick 3. But now I'm like, oh my God, I'm seeing John Wick 3 tonight. Like, I am absolutely beside myself. So where the question, what is starting this question up about John Wick 4? What? John Wick 4? Here's the interview they were talking about. Now, they were talking to the director of the film. And they asked him about which of the John Wick films, because he's been involved in all of them, was the most challenging. What was the most challenging thing for you? This is what he said. All of them, each for their own individual reason. 1 was difficult because we didn't understand what we wanted to do quite. Number 2, we had to map up a whole world we didn't think of before. Number 3, how do we expand and get the audience something creative, not just bigger and cooler? Number 4, I'm certain, will be more difficult. It's that last line that he said that's got everybody talking. It's like, number 4, I'm certain, will be more difficult. Now, understandably, a bunch of people are looking at that comment that he said, and they're going, oh, well, he just pretty much confirmed there's going to be a John Wick Chapter 4 at this point. This kind of goes thematically, Rob, a little bit to the previous topic when we were talking about the producer maybe hinting that Mysterio makes it past Spider-Man Far From Home. Is information like that a spoiler? My thing is this. Is there anybody out there who did not already know? Not because somebody told you, but because in your heart, as Pikachu would say, in your jellies. Is there anybody out there that didn't already know John Wick 4 was going to come, especially if this one opens to $35 or $40 million, which would be the biggest opening of the franchise to this point, and it seems to be becoming more and more beloved. This isn't going to be a $500 million movie, don't get me wrong, but it just keeps getting better, and they keep growing. I think this is just exciting news. I don't think this is questionable. I don't think he said anything wrong. I just think this is flat out exciting. Rob, what do you think about these comments?
I think when you're working on a movie and you are working on the third part of a trilogy, and it's the end movie, you're going to say there's probably going to be a 4, because in your mind, why wouldn't there be? Everyone wants a new job, and it's like, this has been a very successful, lucrative franchise for Chris. Is it Chris or Chad?
It's Chad.
It's Chris and Chad. Frat guys. I know he's not, whatever. But I why wouldn't he? I mean, he's doing a great job. Everyone loves these movies. Everyone's excited for John Wick 3. Why wouldn't they do a John Wick 4? But same with Mysterio. If you like a villain, Jake Gyllenhaal's a great actor. His costume is great. I can't wait for the hot toy figure. But why not bring Mysterio back? Because he's awesome. But that doesn't mean it's going to necessarily happen. So don't get your knickers in a bunch.
Yeah, so him saying 4 doesn't automatically mean, and is it getting ahead of themselves? Look, I think when you're putting out if you're Universal and you've got The Mummy coming out and you're already talking about the next 7 films and doing photo shoots with all the big stars who are going to be in the next 15 films, that's getting ahead of yourself. This is a movie that's about to release its 3rd installment. Its success has been growing. The projections for opening weekend for this film make it the biggest opening of the franchise so far. Talking about a number 4 isn't getting ahead of yourself. And you're talking about an already established franchise that is already working. But I think you're right, Rob. Saying ain't doing. Him saying that doesn't necessarily mean there's going to, but come on. We all know there's going to be a John Wick 4. Of that, we didn't have any doubt. All right, let's move on now to the next main topic. Ashley, what's up next?
Next up is from Grace Kim. I wanted to get your thoughts on this. So Deadline is saying that CW is ending their output deal with Netflix, which I guess means CW shows will no longer just automatically end up on Netflix like they always have the last bunch of years. It says shows could still land on Netflix, but that CW will be taking open bids from all streaming services on a show-by-show basis. What do you think of this, and do you think a Disney Plus could end up not only showing their own original stuff, but other productions too?
Well, okay. First of all, Grace, thanks for the question. There's the main topic, and then you ask a really fascinating question at the end. We'll get to that in a second. Could this be more trouble for Netflix? Okay, so here's the basic deal. Since 2011, I believe, basically CW and Netflix have had this deal where everything that premieres on CW can end up on Netflix. You know, not while it's airing, but later, like most curated content on Netflix. They re-upped that deal, I believe, in 2016. Now, CW is not renewing that deal. And as Grace said, what kind of looks like is that it doesn't automatically mean shows won't go on Netflix. It just means now Netflix has got to bid against other streamers. Here's the full report from Deadline. The deal ending doesn't mean new CW series won't end up on Netflix, where CW shows traditionally have been among the strongest performers. The SVOD service just won't get them automatically via an output deal. Instead, it will have to bid for each show in a far more competitive environment than the streaming marketplace was in 2016. Past seasons of CW series that premiered through the current 2018-2019 season, such as Flash and Riverdale, will continue to stream on Netflix during the broadcast life of the series and beyond. What was really at question here was the new series coming up. We've got a Batwoman series. We've got a Riverdale spin-off series. I believe there's a Nancy Drew series. There are things like this coming out that now these no longer just automatically go to Netflix. These are now going to be up for bid, which means an Amazon Prime can bid for them, which means a Hulu can bid for them, which means a Disney Plus could bid for them. That opens up a separate topic. We'll get to that in a little bit of a second here. Rob, it seems like lately we've been talking about doom and gloom for Netflix, right? Disney's coming out with its major stuff. They're losing all the Star Wars, Pixar, Marvel stuff. Universal's going to be launching their own thing. They're taking away the #1 rated stuff on Netflix, whether you're talking about The Office and other programs like that. Now we're talking about how CW is killing the existing deal. They'll still be in the running, not. We talked before about how Netflix has seen a lot of this coming. Do you think this is a little bit more than they can handle, or do you think this is just a slight bump in the road for Netflix?
It's tough to say. I thought it's really interesting. The new Star Trek series, Star Trek Picard, is not on Netflix.
Internationally.
But they had Star Trek Discovery, which they paid a lot of money to get.
Yes, they did.
And the fact that a Star Trek Picard series isn't, I think
it's
Netflix,
on Amazon Prime, by the way,
yes,
for
it's on
international
Amazon
audience.
Prime,
Or CBS domestically, Amazon Prime internationally.
And Space in Canada. And I think that, look, Netflix, we've talked about it, Netflix has been spending a lot of money.
Tons.
They owe billions of dollars back to the banks that they've borrowed it from. So, and this 3 years of a series and then they're done, it's very interesting. I think Netflix is trying to figure out what they're going to do, and they're being besieged on all sides by rivals they didn't have 3 years ago. And so
I love the way you just said that. They're being besieged by rivals that 3 years ago they didn't even have. That's an important distinction.
Yeah. And so they're trying to figure it out. And they're having their big content, like whether it's The Office or probably Friends, being taken off their platform, and those are big it's what viewers want. But I think Netflix is going to be around for a while. I don't think, look, I'm not panicking for Netflix. Like I'm happy to get The Bodyguard. I'm happy to get new seasons of whatever is going to show up there. I love their international programming. I don't think they're going anywhere. But there's something happening in the streaming world that's shifting. It's a sea change for everybody.
Yeah.
We'll see how it shakes out.
And again, we talked before about how Netflix saw a lot of this coming, and I don't think this is unexpected for them. I mean, they only re-upped for a couple of years that one deal. They knew this was the thing. This is why, once again, Rob, you've been talking about this. This is why Netflix have been spending an unreasonable, ungodly amount of money in original programming over the last number of years, because they knew this was coming. And the result is they have a very strong stable of original content that they're hoping, and I think probably will, carry them through the storm. Let's see how that turns out.
And international content. I mean, they're all over the world
branching
now.
out even more. But in the email, there was a very interesting question that arose that I hadn't really considered before, and this opens up the door. You know, with Disney Plus coming out, we've all known, this is where all the Disney stuff's going to end up. And they're going to do original Star Wars and original Marvel. We've all been looking at the Disney Plus network as a closed ecosphere. Understandably so. We've been looking at it that way. But is it possible that Disney may look, we're launching with all our content, this is going to be home of all our content, but we are also going to be a network. We are also going to take content, if there's other production companies that are making good shows and they need a home for it, Disney will open its doors, and Disney Plus, may be a home for other original content. Do you think it's possible that Disney could become a more all-encompassing network and have all of Disney's stuff, but also some other people's stuff? Or do you think they'll keep it a closed ecosphere? How do you see that?
Oh, I think nothing should be taken off the table when it comes to Disney. Because remember, their new programming, the programming that Disney, they've got ABC and whatever ABC is programming, but I don't see, if there's other family-friendly programming, and I consider the CW superhero shows pretty family-friendly, wouldn't it be interesting if you had Marvel and DC properties streaming on Disney Plus? I could see it happening, and it would be interesting.
I can't see how Warner would allow that. I just can't see how Warner would allow. Now,
well, they have their own streaming service, so it probably never would.
That's where Batwoman will probably end up.
Right, but I just don't take anything off the table. Disney's Disney, and they've got the cheddar to. If they want something, they're going to go pay for it and buy it. So we'll see.
I have such Game of Thrones brain. I'm like, Netflix is like King's Landing. Like, Disney's coming in hot, like Daenerys. I'm like, cannot even get out of it.
And pretty soon, Bob Iger's going to go crazy.
Yeah.
All right.
He'll never go crazy.
What is our next and final main topic today?
The last one up, guys, is from Zach Hayden. I just finished reading one of the best interviews I've read in a while with James Gunn today. Gunn talks about the whole fired, rehired situation. I found it really moving and made me appreciate him even more. Just wondering if you have read it yet, and what is your takeaway from it?
Yeah, we, of course, have gone through kind of a year's worth of drama surrounding James Gunn and, all the stuff that went on with him, the firing. Should he have been fired? No. Did I like how Alan Horn handled that? No. All that kind of stuff. We don't need to rehash all that stuff. Deadline just did a really, and kudos to Deadline, they just did a great interview with James Gunn that really for the first time James Gunn has opened up to talk about the situation. And Rob, when it was all going down, I remember you and I were talking about this. And one of the things that I said is, I am incredibly impressed with how James Gunn has handled this. Because a lot of people, maybe you, maybe me, maybe a lot of you guys, had something like that happened, could have lashed out, could have got very defensive. James Gunn didn't do any of that. He just quietly accepted what was happening. He accepted full responsibility and was very gracious through the whole thing. Now, he's never really opened up about it until now, this great interview. Now, you have to forgive me, guys. I'm going to read a bunch of it here just because I believe a lot of it's really relevant to talk to. I know it's a little bit boring just watching me read something, but I want to read just a couple of excerpts here from this interview that I thought were really impressive. Let's just say that. There's this first section from the interview in Deadline where James Gunn was talking about whose fault was it that, all this happened to him. And he basically said this. He said, I don't blame anyone. I feel and have felt bad for a while about some of the ways I spoke publicly, a decade before. The ways I spoke publicly, some of the jokes I made, some of the targets of my humor, just the unintentional consequences of not being more compassionate in what I'm putting out there. I know that people have been hurt by things that I've said, and that's still my responsibility. That I wasn't as compassionate as I should have been in what I say. I feel bad for that and take full responsibility. Disney totally had the right to fire me. This wasn't a free speech issue. I had said something they didn't like, and they completely had the right to fire me. There was never any argument of that. Then he goes on, when he was talking about, they asked him a great question about how did he start to deal, or did he ever come to terms with the fact that he lost his Guardians of the Galaxy franchise? And he said this: I was writing Suicide Squad and thought of Guardians 3 as being long gone. I guess it was a possibility for a while, but the initial conversations with Alan, that's Alan Horn, the head of all the Disney studios, weren't, let's figure out if I should come back. It was, let's talk about this. It was like the breakup of my marriage. You remember he was married to Pam from The Office. I forget the actress's name, though.
Jenna Fisher.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. He was married to Jenna Fisher for a while. It was like the breakup of my marriage. I got divorced and then had those conversations with my ex-wife. Let's get along as well as we possibly can and be kind to each other because we're both a large part of each other's lives. And by the way, it should be mentioned, they still are a large part of each other's life. They're always very nice to each other, at least online. And then he starts talking about when it happened and when he got fired. And it gets really personal. He writes, that first day, I'm going to say it was the most intense of my entire life. There have been other difficult days in my life, from the time I got sober when I was younger to the death of friends who committed suicide, but this was incredibly intense. It happened, and suddenly it seemed like everything was gone. I just knew in a moment that it happened incredibly quick. I had been fired. It felt as if my career was over. And then finally, we're going to end on this about the response he got from people when it did happen. He got fired. And then came this outpouring of real love from my girlfriend, Jen, my producer, and my agents. Chris Pratt calling me and freaking out. Zoe Saldana and Karen Gillan all calling and crying. Sylvester Stallone FaceTiming me. And of course, Dave Bautista, who came out so strong. That amount of love that I felt from my friends, my family, and the people in the community was absolutely overwhelming. In order for me to have fully felt that love for the first time, the thing that needed to happen was the apparatus by which I was feeling falsely loved had to be completely taken away. Again, guys, this is just a small excerpt of the interview. I highly recommend going over to Deadline and checking out this interview when you get the chance. You know, Rob, you and I have talked about this issue very much over the past year. You know, whether we are all on the same page, at least a lot of us are on the same page about whether Disney should have fired them. No question, they totally had the right to fire them. I was always of the position that I understand why. I wouldn't have done it myself, but I understand why, all that kind of stuff. For a guy like James Gunn, who is riding on top of the world, you know, he's a beloved indie filmmaker to start with. Then he transitions to the big blockbuster with Guardians of the Galaxy. Beloved, the Guardians are now a key central figure in all the MCU. They promote him to kind of being a co-shepherd with Kevin Feige when it comes to the or Kevin Feige's right-hand man, I should say, when it comes to doing the galactic scope of the MCU moving forward. All this stuff, and like that, it was gone, and it all fell out from under him, and all that kind of stuff. Rob, I'm going to tell you what, I read this interview, and to me, it epitomizes the grace, the understanding, and the class that James Gunn really has. I've always said the things he joked about a decade ago were idiotic, and it was his own fault, and he's acknowledged that. But through this whole ordeal, I have been overwhelmed by the humanity he's shown. I'm glad that he and Alan Horn were able to put all these things back together again. I'm glad he never did what a lot of us would have done, quite frankly, and come out and lashed out against Disney, which he totally would have been understandable if he did. He never did that. Bridges have been repaired. He's back for Guardians 3, and he's doing Suicide Squad 2. To me, this is one of the most exciting developments in comic book movie history. I'm almost glad he got fired, because if he didn't get fired, fired. He wouldn't be doing a DC movie and a Marvel movie. I think this is marvelous. But at any rate, Rob, you read these comments, you read this interview. What are the things that stand out to you the most?
Well, I think he got snapped like Thanos, and I think in this day and age where old tweets are being dredged out and people are being pilloried for things they said 10 years ago or whatever, as if they're evil or these people should be destroyed. I think what James Gunn did is a lesson to everyone. I think it's not only was it a study in grace, but it's like this is how you're professional in this day and age. You let things shake out as they are. You don't lash out on social media. You just keep quiet and you let the machinations grind away and see where things will fall, because ultimately, if you're not guilty of some egregious transgression against real people, if it's just jokes or things, you have to. And I know James Gunn. He's a great guy, and his character willed out. And I think what happened was terrific. And he's got 2 movies out of it instead of 1. And who wins? We win as the audience. We're going to get, hopefully, a great Suicide Squad movie, because it can't be any worse than the last Suicide Squad movie. And we get Guardians 3, Volume 3, helmed by him. So we're going to win twice, which is great.
And I got to say, you will all remember, I was kind of harsh on Alan Horn throughout the whole, and I still don't agree with how he handled this. It's not that I hated his decision. I didn't like the way that he went about it. I was very critical of the way he handled that. But let me give him kudos at the same time. Alan Horn could have said, I will make myself look weak if I bring James Gunn back at this point. So I'm just going to be stubborn. I'm Alan Horn, damn it. I make no mistakes. I'm not going to do that. Instead, he didn't care about that. And he and James Gunn kept talking, and they came to some kind of resolution, clearly. Bridges were rebuilt. So in the midst of all this, I got to give a little tip of the cap to Alan Horn, too, because I was extremely harsh on the dude. Justifiably so, but I mean, he kind of swallowed it and just said, yeah, let's fix this. And I appreciate that. This is a great story, Rob, to me, because we live in such a toxic environment these days.
And a dangerous one.
A
career can be taken away from you in an instant.
Just like that. And to see something like this, that, you know what? Nah, we still live in a world where cooler heads can prevail. Stupid things will be said, stupid things will be done, but that doesn't mean the situations entirely become write-offs. Cooler heads can prevail, and everybody can come out on the other side even better for it. And that's why I love this story. It's increased my appreciation for a James Gunn. It's increased what we're going to get as far as now we're going to get a DC movie from him and a Marvel movie from him, which is fantastic. I'm super stoked about that. And to me, it's just a great thing to read. Put a smile on my face, dude. Put a smile on my face. Again, guys, if you have not had a chance, these are just, like I said, little snippets from that interview. I highly recommend going and check out the interview on Deadline, and big kudos to Deadline for conducting a really, really great interview. All right, guys. With all the main topics out of the way, it's time for us to go to our live questions. You guys have been firing in a bunch of live questions, but before we get to that, we, of course, have a lot of stuff going on in the world of entertainment that we don't have time to make main topics. However, we want to make sure that they do get covered and you're caught up to date with everything going on. So here's a little thing that we call the movie news feed. Check it out.
First up, and a Game of Thrones Season 8 spoiler warning. Okay, you've been warned. Some Game of Thrones fans who are less than satisfied with the storytelling of the show's 8th and final season have seen fit to launch an online petition that calls for HBO to remake the entire season, with new writers, of course. From JoeBlow.com, over the past several weeks, many of those tuning in for the show's last hurrah have been left feeling confounded by some of the bold narrative choices executed by Game of Thrones showrunners and writers David Benioff and D.B. Weiss. Among the many complaints about Game of Thrones' 8th season, a section of fans are claiming that the final installment of the Swords and Sorcery drama feels rushed, as Benioff and Weiss attempt to put a big red bow on a myriad of lingering storylines established by the show's 8-year history. Another angle that's left fans feeling divided is the seemingly out-of-character actions of one Daenerys Stormborn, who in a mad act of vengeance razed King's Landing to the ground, reducing its people and property to little less than ashes in the wind. Petition or no, the final episode of Game of Thrones will air this Sunday evening on HBO. Next up, Fans of the CBS drama Madam Secretary have some bittersweet news, as it is being reported that the show has won a 6th season, however it will be its last. From USA Today, the drama series, which won USA Today's 22nd annual Save Our Shows poll, has been picked up for a final 10-episode season and will return to its Sundays at 10 p.m. time slot. The drama, which stars Taya Leone as a college professor recruited to become Secretary of State and soon potentially president, was never an awards magnet, but became a prestige play for CBS, much like The Good Wife, and won a loyal fan base. Madam joins a list of shows making planned exits next season, including ABC's Modern Family, CW's Supernatural, Fox's Empire, NBC's Blind Spot, and CBS's Criminal Minds. Next up, it seems movie theater box offices aren't the only way for a film to earn money. The high-end luxury goods and bling of the Men in Black agents, including their cars, watches, sunglasses, and suits, are part of the prolific, estimated $75 million promotional push for Sony's reboot of the hit franchise Men in Black International. Sony announced the comprehensive list of MIB global partners today, which include Lexus, Hamilton Watches, Police Eyewear, Paul Smith Suits, and more. Jeffrey Godsick, Sony's Executive Vice President of Brand Strategy and Global Partnerships, said the following: "We've amassed a stellar roster of promotional partner brands with organic ties to the property that helps to both eventize the film and transport consumers to the unique Men in Black universe, and rounded out the campaign with brands that designate Men in Black International as a broad summer event film. Men in Black International is set to hit theaters in style on June 7th. Next up, Flight of the Conchords star Jermaine Clement has been cast in the upcoming Avatar sequels. The franchise's official Twitter account dropped the news this morning, saying that the Flight of the Conchords actor will play Dr. Gavin, a marine biologist stationed on Pandora. From ComingSoon.net, Clement joins an impressive array of actors joining the Avatar franchise, including Kate Winslet, Edie Falco, Michelle Yeoh, and Vin Diesel. Returning cast members include Sam Worthington, Zoe Saldana, Stephen Lang, and Sigourney Weaver. Cameron recently explained that Stephen Lang's Colonel Miles Quaritch is coming back for all 4 sequels and will be the main villain throughout the story. Filming officially started on Avatar 2 and 3 on September 25th, 2017. Next up, yesterday James Bond fans were hit with some pretty bad news as they heard that Daniel Craig had been injured on the set of the next James Bond film and that production had been suspended as a result. From CinemaBlend, it doesn't appear that the injury to Craig is particularly serious, as it's now being reported production is expected to resume within the week. The film first had trouble getting off the ground after original director Danny Boyle left the project. Then, the script, which started over from scratch at that point, went through a number of hands, and according to some reports, may still be having issues. The script problems caused Bond 25 to shift its release date back from February of next year to April. Craig's injury came near the end of Bond 25's time filming in Jamaica. And finally, Bruce Campbell still isn't going to suit back up as Ash Williams, but the Evil Dead franchise is going to continue, in some form or another. From MovieWeb.com, Campbell has played the iconic Deadite Slayer ever since Sam Raimi's original horror classic was released in 1981. However, once the TV series Ash vs. the Evil Dead was canceled after 3 seasons, the actor announced his retirement as Ash. Though he's remained positive about the prospect of more stories to be told in that universe, and now he's offered some reassurance on that front. During a recent interview, Campbell cleared up some confusion. Recently, the actor posted an illustrated image of himself bloodied up like Ash Williams. Some took that as a sign more Evil Dead was on the way. That's partially true. The image, as it turns out, is from the paperback version of his book, Hail to the Chin, which hit stores in September. In regards to fan expectations, Campbell said the following: "That's fine. Fans are always going to do that. Everyone's a genius, everyone's got opinions, and the internet fans the flames. No, it's all good. They're going to see different versions. They're going to be seeing more Evil Dead too. We're not done with the Evil Dead saga. More stories to tell. I'm still doing video games, I'm doing voices for Ash, I'm just not going to grovel in the blood anymore." So hopefully that clears up some confusion for fans. And that will do it for today's installment of the Movie News Feed.
And now you are all caught up to date on all the things going on in the world of movies. Shout out to fact checker Jonathan for doing such a great job with those things. All right, guys. I love them. I love the Movie News Feed. I'm so glad we're able to have it back again. All right. Now it's time for us to move on to our live questions. You guys have been firing in a bunch of them. So, Ashley, let's get things started. What are we starting with?
Awesome. This first one of the day is from Matt SF Jada. Are you going to cover anything about Cannes QT?
Probably, if something significant news comes out wise, yes, but I don't generally cover film festivals I will cover certain significant news that comes out of them, but I don't really just generally talk about festivals because I don't think that's on a lot of people's radars. All right, what's next?
A-Tray Gaming sends in a super chat.
Thanks, A-Tray.
Nathan Oswald, how does Susanna Hoffs manage to keep getting hotter?
Oh my God, walk like an Egyptian. That is the girl who's the lead singer of the Bengals, right?
Yes.
Whew. I'm telling you what, I crushed on that girl so hard for so long. I loved their music. I loved her. I don't know how it happened to some people. There are some male and female celebrities that just as they get older, they just get better looking, and it's crazy. It's unfair. That's what it is. It's
She
unfair.
gives me a hazy shade of winter, if you know what I'm saying.
Shade of winter. All right, what's next?
Sky Amazing Guy, I swear if the Transformers franchise was in the right hands, they too could be event films. Those first 4 films made a lot of money until people started to notice the quality of the films.
Well, I mean, I think we all saw the quality. I think everybody knows pretty quick, but we just kept giving them the benefit of the doubt. Because you're right, the Transformers films had so much inherent potential. Giant transforming robots. You've got the nostalgia factor on top of all that. Big visual effects era. It could have been not on the same scale as the MCU, but they could have been major every year. That could have been the big event, one of the big events of the year. But they just kept petering out until finally the audience, including me, finally went, no. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on you. Fool me 3 times, shame on you. Fool me 4 times, eventually shame on my mother for not raising me smarter, apparently. But I don't know. But had they been in different hands, do you think they could have turned out differently?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, no. I mean, I think, look, Bumblebee, as far as the Transformers films go, things like that, no, I don't.
Really? Because I thought Bumblebee was wonderful.
I love Bumblebee.
But don't you think if they'd been in hands like that with the Transformers films, that they could have had maybe an ongoing franchise?
I think, look, that franchise made a lot of money.
It did.
And up until the first night or the last night, what was it? The first night?
Last night.
The last night. I guess it really was the last night of Michael Bay's Transformers franchise. But until that movie...
By the way, spoiler alert, Mark Wahlberg ends up being the last Cybertonian knight. I'm not kidding. Yeah, that's where they went. Sorry.
Well, I just think that I loved Transformers 1, and I did love Dark of the Moon. Legit. I did. I loved them. The Battle of Chicago is an effects smorgasbord.
It is.
I thought it was delightful. I hated 2 and 4. Hated them. So for me, it was a mixed bag. And I think Bumblebee I liked very much as well. So in my mind, there's 3 good Transformers movies and 3 not so good Transformers
Well, you can't
movies.
count the Bumblebee one because that's like outside of the scope that they were in. But
I know. But
I hate the Battle of Chicago. I agree. Looked amazing. I thought the movie was utter trash, but
I liked it.
But I did like the first one. The first one's got a real special place in my heart, but then I just don't know where they went after that. All right, what's next?
Star Killer, glad we're not getting a Rian Johnson Star Wars trilogy. When do you think we will see a more diverse director like Ryan Coogler do a Star Wars film?
I think every director is diverse in their direction. Remember, Star Wars isn't like the MCU that went, 18 films before bringing in a non-white guy director. They did 18. Star Wars, outside of the creator himself, they've done 4 movies? So, I mean, look, I'm more interested when it comes to directors, I'm more interested in the diversity of storytelling that they bring. But if Star Wars does get to 20 films and they never have anything but all white directors, white male directors, if they go 20 films and they still don't do it, then you got to raise your eyebrow and say, this kind of looks like an agenda. But until we get to a point like that, I'm not really worried about it. And remember, we don't know for sure that Rian Johnson isn't still going to do his trilogy. Maybe it's coming in 2028, although that seems like, they're planned 12 years in advance. It seems unlikely, but until we hear an official word from them, all we know is that the Benioff and Weiss movies are the ones that are coming next. So other than that, let's kind of hold our breath a little bit. All right, what's next?
KW Garrett 83. So is Ezra's Flash movie officially dead?
I gotta assume at this point it is.
Shazam gave it no help.
Well, Shazam gave it no help, although people love Shazam.
Box office.
Yeah, box office wise. But I mean, look, they said they were letting him take a crack at the script. Apparently, they rejected it. I don't think it's going to happen. I haven't heard official word yet. Rob, have you?
No, heard nothing.
So, what do you think is going to happen?
Look, I think they want to make a Flash movie because why not? But they've got a Flash TV show. They're doing Crisis on Infinite Earths next year. I mean, I just can't see that Flash is their priority. If it was, they would have made it. They've gone through so many creative people. They've spent a lot of money on that movie in development.
Yeah.
Millions of dollars. So maybe it'll get made, but who knows?
Yeah, I think if it does, it's not going to be Ezra Miller at this point. All right, what's next?
Nathan Oswald, do you have a reservation for Axel Foley?
Bum, 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 bum.
Achmel.
That was-
Foley is here to see her.
It's still one of
He's
the
an old
very
acquaintance.
first things, like when I was just learning how to play music, that was one of the first things I learned how to play my little Casio synthesizer when I was a kid. Ba, 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 ba. Anyway, all right, what's next?
Jay Bling, one reason not to worry too much about box office projections for Godzilla King of the Monsters is that giant monster movies are more walk-up driven.
That's what they take walk-up driven into consideration when they do their projections, because remember, and just until recently, advanced ticket sales was never the big thing like it has become in the last couple of years. So they've taken that consideration. I gotta believe, though, with all the positive critic reviews, the positive word of mouth, I gotta believe it's going to do better than 55. If it doesn't, I don't know what to think. I just really hope it does. Do you think you can crack that, Rob?
I think it's going to crack that. I mean, the movie's great. It's so much fun. If you're interested in kaiju movies, come on. It's awesome.
All right, what's next?
Dimsum05, do you guys play any trading card games?
I've played a lot of Magic the Gathering. As a matter of fact, a little piece of trivia, I am 4-0 against Jeremy Johns playing Magic the Gathering. Of course, I got lucky a couple times, so I think if we played 50 times, it would probably be more even. I played a lot of Magic the Gathering. I don't really play any other. I used to play some Marvel and some DC trading card games when I was younger, but I haven't really played any of them since. I'm not really into them all that much generally, except for Magic. But of course, I get like advanced sneak preview look at stuff because Magic the Gathering is owned by Hasbro, and so I get a little bit of a sneak of that. You ever played any of those trading card games, Rob?
No, the only trading card games I play are with credit cards, and it usually doesn't go well. But
It's
that's
usually
about
just
it.
giving them away.
I've never played. One of the guys I grew up with, went to high school with, was part of Wizards of the Coast for a long time.
Nice.
A guy named Jesper Meerfors, and he was involved. And but I never got into Magic the Gathering. I've had friends that are obsessed by it, and I'm like, I guess I'm not gathering the magic they're putting out.
I've got like thousands of cards downstairs. You can make any deck you want out of them. All right, what's next?
Nathan Oswald, not only is Tombstone one of the greatest westerns ever, but it's got one hell of a cast with Kurt Russell, Bill Paxton, Sam Elliott, Val Kilmer, Malcolm Bay, Stephen Lang, Billy Zane, Michael Rooker, Billy Bob Thornton.
It is a crazy great cast, and I love that movie. It's a movie that doesn't get enough credit these days when talking about the great westerns, even when we're talking about westerns in the quasi-modern era, like anything beyond 1980. Even I'm guilty of not bringing it up enough because it's fabulous. What do you think about it, Rob?
I love Tombstone. As a matter of fact, there's been talk that there's a director's cut, or not a director's cut, but a much more extended version of the film. There was a lot of tumult when that movie was being made. People said Kurt Russell basically stepped in to direct it, but I think it's a great movie, and I would love to see an expanded version of that film if it's possible.
All right.
I love it.
What's next?
Anthony R., my favorite movie sound effects are the lightsaber, Iron Man's repulsor blasts, and both Infinity Gauntlets.
Lightsaber is great, but I would say it's not even my favorite Star Wars sound effect. My favorite Star Wars sound effect is the TIE Fighter screech. It's like one of the best sound effects ever. I just love it. I just absolutely love that sound effect. I get giddy whenever I hear it. Rob, do you got any particular?
I was going to say, I too love the TIE Fighter sound. Have you watched the Oralnauts Kylo Ren videos?
Yes.
Kylo Ren reacts to the Rise of Skywalker trailer. He's like, is that a twin ion engine I hear? I mean, there's nothing better than that, because that's both the lightsaber and the TIE Fighter sound are you from 100 yards off. If you even hear a hint of that sound, you know exactly what it is. And I love that.
Yeah, I love that sound. All right.
Yeah,
what's
way
next?
to bring that up. I don't think about that enough. Like, I want to look up who even invented that.
That would be Ben Burt.
Thank you, Ben Burt. All right, cool. Nathan Oswald. Nope. Dimsum05 in TV and the movies. What's your favorite Spider-Man scene? Mine is still the train scene versus Doc Ock.
That's a great one. What's
Yep.
my favorite scene out of 6 movies? I don't know. There's a bunch of them. There's a bunch in the first Andrew Garfield Amazing Spider-Man. that I love. Rob, do you got one that jumps off
That
the
is
top of
my
your head?
favorite. The whole train. That's my favorite. Even to this day, even with Homecoming, it's still my favorite Spider-Man scene. And what's so great about it is, it's a big action scene, but ultimately he's still saving a train, which seems like it's in his wheelhouse, as opposed to a whole ferry boat that's being pulled in half. That he's holding together.
I do like the ferry boat
I
scene,
love
though,
that
quite a
scene, but it
bit.
seemed a little too implausible. Whereas the train scene, when he's straining, I love that.
It's great, and
great.
probably still the best. I still think the best Spider-Man movie. I still think that one's the best Spider-Man movie overall. All right, what's next?
Javier Reyes, 405. Let's kill him properly this time.
One of the many great highlight moments of Endgame, where he goes, as long as we're all in agreement. Thunder, lightning, let's kill him properly this time. That's a great line. I love that line. What's next?
KW Garrett 83. Thanos, I am inevitable. John Campea and I bring the filthy. Campea snaps. Thanos Army and AMC HR vanishes, and all theaters have reserved seating.
Yeah, the AMC HR department vanishes. That's pretty good. I like that one at all. And then, of course, all movie theaters across Northern. By the way, AMC just announced the other day that they expect, I think they said by the end of next year, all their theaters will be pre-reserved seating theaters. Thank God we're almost out of the dark ages, ladies and gentlemen. Thank God we're almost out of the dark ages. Thanks for that, KW. All right, what's next?
Nathan Oswald, better cameo, Bill Murray in Zombieland or Mike Tyson in The Hangover?
Mike Tyson's cameo in Hangover is
Yeah.
really funny and fun, but I got to go with the Bill Murray one. It's one that comes out of nowhere more for me, and it's just, yeah, I got to go. They're both great, but I'll take that one. What about you?
I'm
Rob?
with you. I didn't know that there was a Bill Murray a Bill Murray cameo in Zombieland, and it was so delightful.
Yeah.
It was such a delightful surprise because I love Bill Murray. There's that documentary about the Bill Murray stories, the stories of people meeting randomly. Bill Murray just shows up at their wedding, and it seemed like he did that. I can imagine like one day he just showed up on set, at least in my mind, and they're like, we should put him in this movie, and they came up with that whole bit.
All right, what's next?
Jonathan Taft, 3 movies coming out this summer named after songs, Rocket Man, Yesterday, and Blinded by the Light. Which of these are you most excited for, and which do you think will do best financially and critically?
Well, financially, obviously, it's going to be Rocket Man. That's
Yep.
the one that's going to do best financially. He's got the big studio behind it, doing the big push on it. It's going to be Rocket Man. The one I was most looking forward to is Yesterday, the one about where the guy wakes up and nobody remembers the Beatles. I'm not hearing the best things about
Yeah.
it, though, from people who've been watching it. So I'm like,
Aw.
oh, I'm very disappointed about that. Blinded by the Light could end up being the best film of the bunch. Blinded by the Light could end up being the best film out of the bunch, but the one that's going to be most financially successful is easily Rocket Man. That one's going to be by a mile. All right, what's next?
Dimsum 05, Thor going full Viking, turned me into a man.
That was pretty great. How Lightning braided his beard, I don't know, but I loved it. I'll take it all day.
It's magic, dude.
It's magic.
It's magic.
What's next?
Jonathan Taft, if Joker is a success, do you think we will hear Joseph Gordon-Levitt try to get his Sandman movie going again?
That's like saying, if I go fishing tomorrow in the lake and catch a pike, will the stock market go up 500 points tomorrow? One has nothing to do with the other. One is probably the most recognizable, beloved villain in comic book history. One is somebody the average person has never even heard of before. One is connected to the biggest comic book franchise of all time, as far as, the character of Batman and all that kind of stuff. One is, again, hardly known by most people. So I honestly don't think the success or failure of the Joker will in any way positively or negatively affect the potential future for that Joseph Gordon-Levitt project, which we heard about 3 years ago and has never had any movement on it. I honestly see there being absolutely zero connection or any relation between the two, to be honest with you. Rob, do you?
Look, Sandman's my favorite comic book of all time. I don't think they can even make a movie out of it simply because of the subject matter. If the Watchmen series is a big hit for HBO, then I could see perhaps...
That's a better comparison, yes.
Yeah.
If that works out well, that could...
Sandman needs to be a TV series. It needs to have it. Every issue should be adapted as an issue, as an episode. Do the 75 issues. Go for it. Make it happen.
All right, what's next?
DC Patience, Lego Movie 2. Just watched it and it's actually funny.
I obviously, because I love the first Lego movie. I love it dearly. I wanted to love the Lego Movie 2. Actually, Rob, you and I were at the press screening together.
I think I liked it a little more than you,
I
but
think
I
you
liked
did.
it. I mean,
I thought it was okay. Pretty good even. Are there moments of giggles? Absolutely, there are moments and pretty funny. But I couldn't help but walk out feel a little bit disappointed by it. Just because I love the first one so damn much. Just love that first one so. But it definitely does have some laughs, DC. No doubt about that. All right, what's next?
Javier 405 today. Pierce Bronson is 66 years old. What is your favorite Bronson movie?
Probably everybody thinks I'm going to pull out one of the Bond movies. But my favorite Bond role is still Remington Steele. I remember watching reruns of that as a kid, and I love Remington Steele to this day. Now, there's also, everybody forgets that he was in Mrs. Doubtfire. I thought he was great in Mrs. Doubtfire, too. So those are the roles I'm going with. What about you, Rob?
Thomas Crown Affair.
Oh, I love him in
John
that.
McTiernan's remake of the Thomas
With
Crown
Rene
Affair.
Russo?
Yeah, I thought, look, I loved him as Bond. I loved him in all 4 of the Bond movies he did, except Die Another Day's Trash. But I thought he was so good in the Thomas Crown Affair. I wanted to be him. I want to be that guy.
Pierce Brosnan, to this day, is the proud owner of the single most awesome, terrible line in Bond history. I set the stage for you. The girl from Starship Troopers.
Denise Richards.
Denise Richards.
Dr. Christmas
Dr.
Jones.
Christmas. That's literally her name, Dr. Christmas. She plays a nuclear physicist. That's Denise Richards. Okay, anyway. So at the end of the movie, of course, the movie's ending, and the camera pans to some tropical location. It pans down to Bond and Dr. Christmas in bed together. Clearly, they had just finished rubbing nasties. And James Bond, Pierce Brosnan, rolling over and goes, well, and I thought Christmas only came once a year. Best awful line in the history of the Bond franchise. It was so painful, but I'll never forget it. All right, anyway, what is next?
I gotta go GoldenEye though. But
Ooh, GoldenEye's great.
I mean, there's so many good ones. Parent Trap. Come on, he does everything. Star Killer. I'm excited for Netflix live action Avatar series.
I don't know. This is the one big thing. I remember when the news came out that they were going to be doing, and by the way, Avatar live series is Avatar: The Last Airbender. That one, not the James Cameron Avatars people are talking about. So what they're talking about is like this Avatar: The Last Airbender series, and everybody's like, oh, it's going to be so much better than that trash movie that they did. You know why? Because you know who's executive producing this live series? The guys who ran the animated show. That's why this is going to be awesome. And then I have to go, you do realize they were also the executive producers on M. Night's movie, right? The Last Airbender movie? Yeah, same guys. No, they didn't. Yeah, they did. Look it up. So I don't know. I'm a little bit apprehensive because part of me thinks these guys, maybe they just don't know how to do stuff in live action. Maybe they just don't know how to tell these types of stories in live action. I don't know. So I am not pessimistic about it, but I'm not going to get excited about it yet. I'm kind of taking a wait and see attitude when it comes to it. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it. All right, what's next?
Allen Valley. Game of Thrones composer Ramin Djawadi is doing a Game of Thrones live concert in the fall. Anyone planning to go? Think the music is one of the consistent MVPs of the show.
Yeah, I believe they're going to do it at the Hollywood Bowl, much like the John Williams does. I'm actually not going to go myself. I'm more into just going to the John Williams stuff. Are you going to plan on going to that? Because the music is great.
I would go. I mean, I really like the score for that, and I've seen videos of that live concert. It looks like it's a pretty great experience, so why not? It just depends how it ends on Sunday, John.
It ends this Sunday. All right, what's next?
Schnip. Robert, have you seen the new artwork for the Shining 4K release coming out in October? Tasty stuff.
What? No, I have not. But look, Stanley Kubrick is my jam. He's my favorite director. I will buy anything that it comes out in 4K from Mr. Kubrick. And The Shining, by the way, is not one of my favorite Kubrick movies, just so everyone knows. I like it, but I will buy The Shining in 4K. I have not seen the artwork. Now I want to look at it. Please show me. Can't wait.
What's your favorite Kubrick?
Ooh, that's a tough one. You know, probably a toss-up between A Clockwork Orange and Dr. Strangelove.
Love Dr. Strangelove.
And I love Barry Lyndon a lot more than most. And I love Lolita. 2001.
I don't think his Tom Cruise, Nicole Kidman.
Eyes Wide Shut.
I don't think look, it's a filthy movie, yeah, but I think not enough people look beyond that. I think it's actually quite a good film.
I think it is too.
Really
I
like it a lot.
It's a great movie, and I think it's misunderstood.
All right, what's next?
Her monologue when she's challenging him, when she's standing next to the wall, is incredible.
Oh, it's great. It's great.
All right, Jonathan Teft. Jonathan
you're
Teft.
right.
I wish
Jaimon.
Hansu Jaimon Hansu appeared in Endgame when Rhodey and Nebula were getting the Power Stone. Then he would have been in 3 comic book movies in 1 year.
I'm not gonna lie. I was when they arrived on. I can't remember the name of the planet where they go to get the Power Stone. When they got there, I was expecting to see Jaimon Hansu pop up because
Me
you're right,
too.
it would have been 3 comic book movies within a year. He was in Aquaman, granted small and it's just his voice, and he did some motion capture. He was in Captain Marvel, granted a smaller role but still, and he then would have been in this. I would have loved to have seen him in that. I was kind of disappointed that we didn't. To be honest,
Who was he in Captain Marvel?
He was same character he was in Guardians of the Galaxy. He was the pursuer.
Yeah, just at the beginning.
Yep. All right.
Forget.
What's next?
Suthius. Hey, you know what? There's another name you may know me by. Star-Lord. Who? I use that who meme way too often, more than I should. LOL.
One of it's probably the defining Jaimon Hansu moment in all of his MCU career. Who? It's just the way he delivered that line. I love it. It's a classic line, Suthius. And yes, I see that meme used all the time. You're not alone in that, so don't feel too bad. All right, what's next?
Murray Reich. Unless AMC is adding more theaters to their list to Brightburn, it's only playing so far at 612 NYC locations. Empire, not one of them. Strange?
That is strange. Actually, let me just look this up quick, because I believe Brightburn. Hold on a second. Oh, you know what? Let me just go to box. I believe it's getting like a legit wide release. Let me just check this out here. As I look at the release schedule, Brightburn, where did it go? There it is. Okay, no, they don't have a numerical value on, but it is they do qualify it as a wide release. So it is getting a full wide release. Look, there's a bunch of movies in theaters right now. Brightburn does not appeal to the widest audience. Let's be honest about that. There's a bunch of you guys, and definitely me and Rob, are completely stoked for this movie.
Very much so.
More than I can even believe. But it's not a movie that's going to appeal to a lot of average film goers. But I hope it gets enough of a release to support it. And I hope they start marketing a little bit more. I hope they put the money into it to market a little bit more. Because I think it's going to be awesome. I cannot wait. All right, what's next?
Terrell Wise, James Gunn deserved his job back.
He did. He did. But he also would have been completely fine if he didn't. I mean, like I said, once he got fired by Disney, the studios were literally all of them lined up to offer him gigs. He would have been fine and totally great, but having him back at the helm of Guardians 3, after he'd already written the script and they were going to use the script anyway, totally makes sense. It's good to have him back. All right, what's next?
Jonathan Teft, new headcanon. As Steve Rogers grows old, he tries to find a way to pass on words of wisdom to next generation, so he creates the greatest kids show ever, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
Oh my God, if they did that, if they showed some kind of and I think the alternate reality stuff is all shit, but if they did show an alternate reality where he did go on, well, what am I going to do now? I'll do kids television and teach kids lessons. I got to admit, that would be a pretty funny moment. That would be a pretty damn funny moment. But, you know, the thing is this, though. I've said for a long time, Jonathan, that no matter what happens to Tony or Steve in Endgame, this is before Endgame came out, they very well may die. I didn't think they would, but there was a greater chance that they would die in this one than in any other. They'll still come back. They're going to come back at some point, in some way, in some shape, in some form. Whether it's they just literally come back from the dead, well, not in Steve's case, literally come back from the dead, or they use one of their BS get out of jail free card stupid plot devices of time travel in multiple universes, whatever, they're going to be back at one form or the other. I wouldn't completely doubt at some point in the future, maybe Black Widow, who also returns from the dead, or maybe a Bucky, or maybe somebody else along those lines having a tough problems goes, I know who I need to talk to. And it's just a little scene on the porch of Steve Rogers, now 103 years old, just sitting on his porch, looking out at his fields and talking to someone, giving advice. I think one way or another, they're going to be back and do something like that. But Mr. Rogers Show, damn. I'd be completely down for that. All right, what's next?
Raven, John Wick Chapter 3 brings you today's word, parabellum, Latin for prepare for war. Commonly heard in the Latin phrase, si vis parsum parabellum, translation, if you want peace, prepare for war.
I had never heard of the phrase parabellum, Rob, until John Wick Parabellum. I think that was the first foray for a lot of people into looking it up and seeing what it meant. But it is perfect for this, right? Like,
so not only, just John Wick get to kill dudes, but you get to learn your Latin too. What a great movie.
What value for your money? You're getting Rosetta Stone and an action flick. Now, John Wick Chapter 2 didn't have a subtitle, right?
No.
So John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum is the first one kind of with a subtitle. Interesting. I like that. And I love the use of the word in it. That's fantastic. All right. Thanks a lot for that, Raven. What's next?
Willow Yang, have fun dipping your wicks today. Is it just me, or does that sound kind of dirty? I look forward to hearing your thoughts on the movie.
No, it's not dirty. No, it's not dirty at all. I'm going to dip my wick.
It's a candle. That's how you
Wet
make a candle.
And thick and juicy into John Wick Chapter 3. Yeah, of course it's filthy. Obviously it is. That's why we all giggle like school children. But the analogy is perfect. I mean, I'm so stoked for this. I can't believe we'll all finally get to see this today. Again, this isn't going to be a monster box office movie, but I was more, look, unlike some of you guys, I actually was more excited for Endgame than this, yes. But I got to admit, in counting down to the final hours, my enthusiasm getting close. It's getting close to the same kind of excitement I kind of felt for Endgame. Was a little bit higher, but I am getting close to that. Rob, where's your excitement level right now?
Oh, it is an Endgame level excitement, but it's up there. I mean, any chance to dip my wick is a good chance for me, and I cannot wait. I can't wait to see this movie. The scene with the dudes on the motorcycles and the swords, they keep showing more clips of it. I can't get enough of that.
Me either.
I just, dudes on motorcycles with swords, that's all you got to say.
We all remember the first time we dip our wicks. All right, what's next?
Seb Marvel, after popular franchises ending this year like Avengers and Star Wars, are there any movies you're really excited about coming in 2020?
Let's be very clear. Avengers is not over. There's more Avengers movies coming, and let's be clear, there's more Star Wars movie coming. Certain storylines within those franchises are coming to an end, and they'll move on to new ones as they always do, but those ones are not ending. I don't necessarily look forward to franchises. I look forward to what new movies are coming, and we've gone ad nauseum about a lot of the movies we're looking forward to this year, one of which being Brightburn, although I don't think they have any franchise aspirations for that. I think that's just going to be a one and done kind of what if movie. But I don't know, Rob, you got anything particular that's on your radar right now?
April, baby. April 2020. Bond 25. Yo, what's up? I'll be in England. I'll be at the Odeon Theater in Leicester Square, first show.
All right, let's move on. What's next?
That's awesome. Marie Sigfring, congrats on 170,000 subscribers.
Oh, did we? I did not know that. Did we cross the 170 line? I didn't know that. All right, yay, 170. Thank you so much to everybody for subscribing. By the way, if you're watching, you haven't subscribed yet, click on that subscribe button. Thank you so much, Marie. I appreciate that. All right, what's next?
Christopher Benson, worst end to a trilogy, Spider-Man 3 or Blade Trinity? Personally, I've always felt Blade 3 was the absolute worst.
Okay, so Spider-Man 3 is bad. Spider-Man 3 isn't a completely unredeemable dumpster fire of garbage. It's bad, but it's not like nothing is worth even talking. It's not. It's bad, but we just leave it at that. Blade Trinity is an offense to the human race. Blade Trinity is god-awful. And I remember, because I loved Blade, I love Blade 2 even more. I was so stoked. And I remember I was dating this girl at the time. And me and my buddy were going to go see Blade, and I talked my girlfriend into coming with us. She'd never seen a Blade movie. But I'm like, oh, but baby, you're going to love this. You're going to love this because it's Blade. I'm sure you don't need to know the other ones to catch up. And sure enough, you didn't. And I don't know that she ever listened to me ever again after that. That movie is so bad, with Jessica Biel, who I love, with her lightsaber bow, with Ryan Reynolds, who I love, is constantly having his name, Hannibal King, screamed over and over again. It was abysmal. I got to go Blade 3. Anyway, Rob, what about you?
I hate Blade 3. At least Spider-Man is enjoyable to watch. Blade is so, and there's a lot of stories about how Wesley Snipes was unbearable to deal with on that film, and he wouldn't come out of his trailer, and they made the most of what they could, but man.
Aren't there stories they actually physically attacked the director, David Goyer, on that one too?
At some point. Yeah. Although the only thing that came out of Blade 3 was Jessica Biel?
Yep.
They made a hot toy of Jessica Biel.
Really?
There was a hot toy of a hot girl.
I would have been down with that.
I did not buy it, though.
All worth it.
I didn't buy that because I'm like, I don't want a figure from Blade Trinity in my house.
All right, let's move on. What's next?
Cinema Survey Troy. Why no buzz for the Russo brothers 21 Bridges movie?
Well, I mean, the first trailer just really came out. So whether the movie's really any good or not, and let's be clear, it's not the Russo brothers movie. They did not direct this film or anything like that. So they're involved, but I mean, let's not call it the Russo brothers 21 Bridges. It's not really. I'm curious to see it, but until I get to see it or I get to talk to some people who have, I'm not going to get terribly excited till I do. The trailer looked good. We talked about the trailer when it came out. It's a solid looking trailer. I'm curious about it, but there's really not much to talk about at this point, Rob. Do you see any other different?
No, but the trailer looks, I love movies like that, and it looks great to me. I mean, cop thrillers, somebody killed the cops, it looks really good.
All right, what's next?
Jose Miaz, have you seen Hector El Father film?
No, I've never even heard of it, Rob. All right, so unfortunately, no. Unfortunately. All right, what's next?
Pablo Diablo. Hawkeye's skills from Tag has come in handy keeping the gauntlet away from Thanos' minions. Keep up the great work, Pisces.
All right, thank you. And yeah, Pisces was, of course, Pablo has been watching me for a while. Pisces was my breakdancing name. Anyway.
You breakdance?
Oh, dude, I was a breakdancer professionally. We actually made money. We actually got paid to breakdance.
Dude, you really are a song and dance man. The more I find out about you, you truly are a song and dance man.
For a while, I was in this crew. It was our crew.
You were part of a breakdancing crew?
Oh, yes.
You learn something new every day, guys.
With Shabba-Doo and Shabba Ranks, your idols was Breaking 2, Electric Boogaloo. Why didn't you break dance in the beginning of the show opening?
Oh, no, that's never going to happen again. But anyway, we were part of a crew called the Zodiac Crew. And each one of us had a different Zodiac sign name. It's as bad. I kid you not. I literally... do you remember Sun In? Do you remember that? I don't think it's around anymore. Sun In, where it's stuff that you just sprayed in your hair and it just bleaches the color out.
Oh, yeah.
I had the sides of my head were pure blonde when I was breakdancing for a very short time, and it was just all blonde there and brown on top. Oh, it's embarrassing times that I look back on. Anyway, what was the question again? Oh, Hawkeye. By the way, Hawkeye's skill from Tag. Still, again, guys, one of last year's most pleasant surprise movies to me was Tag. It has so much heart. Ed Helms, John Hamm, obviously. Why am I freezing on Hawkeye's name? Jeremy Renner. It's a wonderful little movie. Just a really nice, not best movie of the year or anything like that, but a really nice, funny, feel-good kind of movie with terrific end credits that you have to stick around and watch. It's really underrated. If you get a chance to watch it, you really, really should. All right, thanks for that, Pablo. All right, what's next?
Joey, do you like any Lars von Trier films? Are you a fan?
I neither dislike Lars von Trier, nor am I a big fan. I mean, Dancing in the Dark or
Dancer in the Dark.
Dancer in the Dark. Obviously, that one, I believe he got an Oscar nomination for that too, for song or something like that. Honestly, while I admire that he really does some very different things, and I think that's great, I'm not personally a huge fan, but nor am I a hater either. Rob, do you have any of his films that really stand out to you?
I've been a big fan of Lars von Trier since I saw I believe it's his first movie, The Element of Crime, which is this really interesting dystopian sort of science fiction film that Criterion put it out on DVD, but it's never come out on Blu-ray. But yeah, I mean, I am a Lars von Trier fan. Breaking the Waves I really liked a lot. I like Nymphomaniac 1 and 2. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, I just got from the UK The House That Jack Built, his new serial killer movie that Matt Dillon stars in. Have yet to watch it, but I did get it.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one either.
His movies are maddening and frustrating, but they're interesting. And
Melancholia.
Oh, I love Melancholia.
Yeah.
Oh, so good.
Yeah.
All right.
Do you have any hot toys of Nymphomania?
No, they didn't make Hot Toys. Didn't make any Nymphomania hot toys.
Shocking. Okay.
No Skarsgård orgasm face thing.
No,
Okay.
no Shia LaBeouf. No.
All right, what's next?
Jose Miaz, and today is my birthday.
Well, happy birthday, man! I hope you have a great one filled with friends and family, and I hope you have a great year ahead. All right, what's next?
Terrell Wise, wonder what Gunn will do with Thor in Volume 3.
We should be clear here that all signs point to Thor being in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, but we don't know that for sure. I mean, if he is, obviously, look, he wrote the script for this ages ago, so he knew what was happening in Endgame, and he wrote appropriately. So let's be clear, we don't know for sure that he's going to be in there, just think he is, and if he is, I'm sure the Thor character in James Gunn's hand is going to be hilarious. I look forward to that a lot. All right, what's next?
Murray Reich, I was looking forward to seeing Aladdin, but embargo 2 days before. Yikes. I don't want my mom to be disappointed because she loves the Broadway show and movie.
The Broadway show is fun. I saw the Broadway show of Aladdin. It's great. Again, we talked about it on the show yesterday. Disney is known for having great confidence in their films, having very early press screenings, letting social media review embargoes lift early because they know their films are good and they know they're going to be crowd pleasing. And this one, the press screening is 2 or 3 days before the movie comes out. Embargo lifts the day before the movie comes out. Because remember, it opens on Friday. That means it really opens on Thursday. And Wednesday is the review embargo. That is so counter behavior for Disney. And unfortunately, it doesn't look good. And, you know, Rob, we talked about this the other day. You and I both got excited when we saw the clips from it at CinemaCon. They looked really good. But this has killed a lot of my enthusiasm. I'm not saying the movie's going to be bad. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that it raises a lot of red flags when any studio doesn't lift a review embargo till the day before, but particularly when it's Disney, because they always show a lot of confidence in their films. And I'm nervous, friends. I'm nervous. All right, let's move on here. What's next?
Anthony R., do you think Nolan had Bruce start training in his adult years instead of teen years because he thought a kid traveling around the world wouldn't fit his grounded vision? They pulled it off in Gotham.
You and I can disagree on whether they pulled it off in Gotham. So we can have that debate at another time. I do not believe they pulled it off in Gotham at all. But that being said, no, I think he just thought that narratively that made the most sense. I just thought he had to get to that breaking point later on. So I don't think... although it would have been very iffy to have a 13-year-old Bruce Wayne traveling the world by himself. I mean, that becomes questionable. What's Alfred doing while that's going on? But I just thought it was a narrative decision. Rob, did you see it any other way?
No. And I agree with you. I don't think they pulled it off in the Gotham.
I never even watched this. I haven't watched this last season of it all. I tapped out after last year. I'll probably get around to watching the final season because I did watch all the other ones, but we'll have to see. All right, guys, listen, we are just about out of time here for today's show, but we're going to get to a few more. Some of you guys have sent in some really large super chats. I want to make sure we get to those here on the live show. For everybody else who sent them in, do not worry. I'm going to gather up all the unused questions that we didn't get around to today, and I'm going to address them in a companion video later today. So don't worry, those questions are getting asked. But for right now, let's try to clear up all the people who sent in some of the larger ones here. Okay, what is next?
Anthony R., people have a problem if Batman, Spider-Man, or Superman kill, but everyone else is okay. For example, Green Lantern is a galactic cop, WW is a warrior, Hawkeye and BW are assassins, so it's okay.
I mean, you kind of answered the question there yourself, Anthony, is that to a lot of people, you know what? It's never been in their story. It's never been part of their mythology that they don't kill. Whereas it has been suggested in others. Although I put up a comic book clip the other day that clearly has Batman in the comic book saying, yeah, I kill, but only in self-defense. So anyway, it's a thing that goes. But this hard line that heroes shouldn't kill, it's like, well, you do know Tony Stark just committed mass genocide, right? Like Tony Stark just killed tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people with a snap. I mean, he just committed mass genocide. It's crazy, but it's okay because he's the hero. Batman takes somebody out, everybody loses their mind. Even though there's precedent for it in the comics, even though he's killed many times in the comic book movies, or in the movies prior to now, but you're right, people do lose their minds. But again, Anthony, it's because for a lot of those people, because there have been stretches in these series where those were kind of like cornerstones of the character in many ways that they really don't want to kill. So then seeing them kill in the movie ruffles feathers a little bit, which I get, but I'm still 100% cool with it. Totally cool with it. All right, what's next?
Jack Wallace, thinking about Schnepp lately, went to the comic shop and bought Green Lantern tribute issue. Never bought a comic before, got a few others, and last night my son and I stayed up reading them. Even now, Schnepp's still making sweaty.
That's very nice.
That is very nice. For those of you who don't know what he's talking about, one of the illustrators for the Green Lantern did this great visual tribute to Schnepp in one of them where he was the figure laying down right? It was really, really nice and really, really special, Jack. That was really great that you went out and got that and read that. And you know what? I don't think anything would have pleased Schnepp more to find out that even one more time there's something he did that motivated somebody to go out and buy a comic book.
Especially at a comic book store.
I was going to say, because there's nothing he loved more than people going to comic book stores and buying comic books and stuff like that. So that would totally have tickled him pink, Jack. That's awesome to share. Thank you for sharing that, man. That's great. All right, what's next?
Ozient. With the success of Detective Pikachu, should Nintendo embark in the film industry and create a cinematic universe of their own? A Meteoroid or Star Fox movie? Ooh, Star Fox.
I'd watch a Star Fox movie.
Yeah, perhaps a Super Smash Brothers movie in the style of Avengers, LOL.
Again, I don't really see much connection between one and the other. And by the way, Detective Pikachu is doing okay, but let's not pretend it's blowing the doors off the theaters. It made $55 million in its opening. It should have made more. Quite frankly, should have made more. And I always knew everybody screaming at me, Campea, you know nothing. Pokemon's the #1 brand in the world. It's going to make hundreds of millions of dollars. Well, we knew it wasn't going to do that, but it should have done more than 55. Now, granted, Endgame is still in theaters, but it's not like Endgame made $200 million that weekend. Endgame made like $63 million. There was still a lot of business to go around, and they didn't do it. So I don't really see any connection. And quite frankly, listen, Metroid is not Pokemon. Metroid doesn't have the following and all that kind of stuff that Pokemon have. I don't see anybody going to a Metroid movie. I don't see anybody going to a Star Fox movie. I'll be honest with you. Other than
team
Rob,
them both up.
well,
you
team
got
them both up.
something.
What has been kind of half suggested at jokingly is Super Smash Brothers, but you can't do Avengers style because then you got to do like a bunch of standalone movies of these characters and nobody cares about. I just don't see it working, Rob. Do you?
No, and I think Sonic the Hedgehog's going to kill the video game movie for a while. I don't know. Call me
what
crazy.
What are you talking about? It's going to be awesome. We're going to be talking about come Oscar
Maybe
season.
it's going to be Jim Carrey's big triumphant return to comedy movies.
You know what? Regardless of whether this movie's trash like we suspect or if it's good, I think Jim Carrey's going to be great in it. I'm going to go on a limb and guess Jim Carrey's going to be great in it. All right, what's next?
Alan Gonzalez. Hey, John, there's a website to chat with artists. The website is called Cameo. Apparently, you pay celebrities to, say, chat on video with you. Do you know more about it?
I know nothing about it, but I love it. I mean, if I could jump on, I mean, obviously Steven Spielberg's not doing it, but all I had to do, and Steven Spielberg's the one guy I've never met. My favorite all-time filmmaker. He's the one guy in this business that I've never met. And I even met his mom. I had lunch in his mom's restaurant. His mom came out and served me lunch. It was awesome. I've never met Steven Spielberg though. If I could drop $20 and have a 30-second conversation with Steven Spielberg, oh God, man, I'd be like emptying out my wallet. I'd be like talking to him all. I think that's great, but I don't know anything about the service. Have you heard of it before, Rob?
No, but if Kate Beckinsale and Kate Winslet and Karen Gillan are on, I'm subscribing.
I'm there. Yeah, sign me up right away. All right, what's next?
Zach Bartron. Warner Brothers is showing great confidence for Annabelle Comes Home because that release date keeps creeping closer and closer, and with a June 26th date now, does that kill Child's Play completely in its second weekend?
It's so hard to say, Zach, because we haven't seen the movie yet. I mean, if Child's Play comes up, and remember, Child's Play, it's counter-programming because Child's Play is opening against this tiny little film called Toy Story 4 that they're taking advantage of in their marketing, by the way, which has been fantastic. But, I mean, we got to get a sense of this movie any good. And that simply we just don't know. I've liked the trailers. And I've never been interested in them going back to Child's Play. Because other than the first one, I've never thought they were any that good, including Bride of Chucky. I've never found them to be all that entertaining, so I did not care about a new Chucky movie. These trailers have gotten me on board and interested, but the question about how can it stand moving forward, that's totally going to be a question of quality. And I just don't know yet. And so, Rob, do you get a sense of how good or bad this movie will be yet?
I don't know any. I'm going to have to wait till I read a review or something. I think that it's iffy with me. It better be good because otherwise I'm not going to see it.
Now, as far as Annabelle goes, first Annabelle, terrible. Second Annabelle really turned it around.
Really, I love Annabelle creation.
Me too.
I really liked it a lot.
So here's hoping they don't do an odd, even in this next one. So I hope they build on the success of that one because I'll tell you what, Zach, that movie I thought was terrific. And I walked out feeling like I really got my money's worth. And here's hoping they can follow up on that. And then how does that compare and compete against a Chucky? Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. But I'm looking forward to both of them at this point. All right, what's next?
This one is from Maze Club. How much do you think James Wan will have an influence in the upcoming show Swamp Thing?
I think very little. To be honest with you, I think very, very little, Rob.
Me too.
Now, there's already been a bunch of drama around. It's like, remember, they all of a sudden out of nowhere, they cut the season shorter than they thought it was going to be, and it set the showrunners scrambling and all that kind of stuff. And I honestly believe they're going to shut down this DC streaming service. I think they're going to shut it down. Nobody's told me this, but I think they're going to shut it down. And the speculation around has been they're going to roll it into a larger Warner Brothers streaming service that's coming. And I think that's the best move for them to do.
Me too.
But it's always concerning when you haven't even launched your first season yet. You're finishing up production on first season, and the network suddenly cancels your last couple of episodes, and now you got to wrap up the season sooner. Not a good sign. Not a good sign. And I think that does it. All right, guys, for everybody else, do not worry. All the questions you guys sent in will be answered a little bit later today in a companion video. Keep your eyes open for that. We will get around to your questions. I want to thank, of course, the people joining me here on this show. First of all, Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett, who is now 1 year and 1 day older.
Oh, my God.
So happy belated birthday to you, Rob. Where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at BurnettRM, find me on Instagram at RMBurnett, or find me on my own YouTube channel, The Burnett Work, and its adjacent website, theburnettwork.net.
And, of course, Ashley Whalen. Ashley, where can people find you?
You guys can find me on my Twitter at AshAttack1 or Instagram at Ashley Whalen. 2 Y's in my first name.
And you guys, of course, can just follow me on social media, simply at John Campea. That'll do it for us for now, guys. Thank you so much for being here. Keep an eye open for my John Wick Chapter 3 review. We all get to dip our wicks tonight. That'll do it for now. My name's John, and until next time, bye-bye.